How many of these 12 old-timer attraction tricks are you using right now, and how many are you paying a company $20 to do worse? I'm going to guess most hunters reading this are using zero, and the industry is very happy about that. Every trick on this list costs somewhere between nothing and $7. Most of them cost nothing at all. And every single one of them was standard practice for the generation of hunters who grew up before the scent industry existed, before the attractant aisle took up half the pro shop, and before somebody figured out they could put deer urine in a bottle with a camo label and charge $18 for what amounts to a biological process that happens in every deer's body for free. The old-timers didn't have trail cameras to confirm what worked. They had notebooks, patience, and decades of watching what deer actually do versus what a product label says they'll do. I started collecting these tricks about 8 years ago from forum posts, old magazine articles, and conversations with hunters over 70 who didn't mind telling me exactly how they'd been filling tags since the Eisenhower administration. Some of these will sound too simple to work. Try them anyway. And the last one on the list is something so obvious you'll be annoyed nobody told you sooner. Most of these I learned from forum posts with hundreds of replies from hunters who've been doing them for 20 or 30 years. Plus, there's one near the end that's completely free, completely legal in every state, and works so well that the old-timers who know about it don't bring it up at deer camp because it sounds too stupid to be real. Trick 1. Steal an active licking branch and relocate it to your stand. When you find a scrape that's getting hit, the branch hanging over it at about 5 to 5.5 feet off the ground, roughly forehead height on a mature buck, is where 80% of the communication is happening. That branch is coated in preorbital gland secretion, forehead gland oils, and saliva from every deer that's worked it. No commercial product replicates that cocktail. Cut the branch with paracord or a handsaw, wearing rubber gloves the entire time, and tie it to a tree 15 to 30 yards from your stand at the same height. Then scrape the ground underneath it to bare dirt using a stick from the area, never your boots. A poster on the Deer Hunter forum described doing exactly this and said bucks were hitting the relocated branch within 48 hours because the real glandular scent was already on it. You didn't have to buy anything. You didn't have to fake anything. You just move the communication hub to a spot that gives you a shot. One detail most people miss: point the branch toward your stand, not away from it. Steve Bartilla, who wrote the actual book on whitetail habitat management, documented this technique and noted that when the licking branch faces the stand, the deer orients its body toward the branch and away from you. That gives you a broadside or quartering away angle instead of a head-on stare down while you're trying to draw. 2. Build a mock scrape with no scent at all, because the licking branch is the scrape. This is the trick that saves you the most money long term. The hunting industry wants you to believe you need a $14 bottle of pre-orbital gel, a $12 scrape dripper, and a $9 pack of scent wicks to make a mock scrape work. You don't. On the Archery Talk forum, multiple hunters with years of mock scrape experience said the same thing. Hang a branch or vine in a good location, clear the dirt underneath, and the deer will take over. One poster wrote that he simply snaps and bends a branch down, kicks leaves out of the way, and the deer do the rest. No scent. Another said he's never bought scent for a mock scrape, and his scrapes get hit year-round. The key is location, not scent. Set it up on a travel corridor where deer are already moving, and the first doe that finds it will deposit pre-orbital scent by rubbing her face on it. Within a week, every deer in the area is adding their own scent. And you've got a functioning community scrape that costs you nothing and sits exactly where you need it for a shot. A Michigan Sportsman poster put a branch up on a Saturday and it was torn up by Monday. No scent, no dripper, just the branch and bare dirt. One more thing on this. Multiple forum hunters reported that a fresh-cut grapevine hung vertically outperforms a horizontal branch because the vine moves more naturally in the breeze and deer can work it from any direction. An Arkansas hunting poster said he went from getting a few photos at his mock scrapes to getting hundreds after switching to vertical vines. Does were rubbing their heads on the vine within hours of it being hung. 3. Scatter corn instead of piling it in states where baiting is legal. Before you use any corn, check your state regulations. Baiting is illegal in many states and restricted in CWD zones in others. But in states where it's legal, most hunters dump a 50-pound bag in a pile and sit over it. That pile is a visual red flag to every deer over 2 years old. They've seen piles before. They know what follows. Old-timers did it differently. Poke a hole in the bottom of the bag and drag it behind you in a wide circle, roughly 50 yards in diameter, with your stand at the center. Or use a half-gallon milk jug with holes punched in the bottom to broadcast scatter the kernels across a 30-yard radius. The corn lands in leaves, under brush, in natural ground cover. The deer have to root for it the way they root for acorns, which is natural feeding behavior that keeps them calm and in the area longer. A scattered application lasts 50 to 75% longer than a pile because raccoons and turkeys can't clean it up in one night. The deer have to work the area slowly, heads down, moving naturally through the zone instead of standing in one spot, staring at a pile like they're at a buffet. That natural feeding posture keeps them calm and in range longer, which matters a lot more when you're hunting with a bow and need the deer at 20 yards for 10 seconds instead of 60 yards for 2. 4. The coffee can of corn in a remote spot. Same legal caveat. Check your state before using any bait. This is the most patient version of the corn trick, and it came from a Michigan old-timer who claimed he killed over 50 bucks using only this method. 1 pound of corn, roughly the amount that fits in a coffee can, placed in a spot that's a 45-minute walk from any road or parking area. You only enter on a perfect wind. You never check it casually. The small amount of corn brings deer in without creating the concentrated scent and ground disturbance of a larger pile. And the remote location means zero human pressure from other hunters. The deer never associate that spot with danger because nobody else goes there. Most hunters won't walk 45 minutes to hunt. That laziness is your advantage. The further you go from the road, the less pressure exists, and the more a tiny amount of corn acts like a magnet because nothing else is competing with it. This is one of those old-timer approaches I wrote up in the Buck Hunter's Bible, the field guide I put together with 77 tricks like these, each with the reasoning behind why it works. It covers scent control that costs nothing, stand placement by terrain, all 3 rut phases with different tactics for each, and a full chapter of forgotten methods that were standard practice before the attractant industry existed. There's a pre-hunt reference card at the back you can print and take to the stand. Links in the description below this video, or if you're watching on a TV, pull out your phone and scan the QR code on screen. All right, trick 5. 5. Hunt where bucks retreat from everyone else's bait piles. This is the one that costs nothing and might be the smartest trick on the list. On properties where multiple hunters are running corn piles or feeders, mature bucks don't come to the bait. I wasted 3 seasons learning this the hard way, sitting over a corn pile watching young bucks and does pour in every evening, while the trail cameras 500 yards deeper in the timber were photographing the bucks I actually wanted. All during daylight, all where no hunter was sitting. They pull back half a mile to 3/4 of a mile behind the does and let the young bucks and does take the risk. The mature bucks are still in the area. They're just deeper in the timber, closer to bedding, in the interior zones where no other hunter is sitting because everyone else is watching a pile. If you hunt that interior, you're sitting where the big deer actually spend daylight hours during the season. I tested this on a lease in Jasper County, Missouri. That's the post oak and prairie transition country southwest of Joplin, where the timber patches sit between cattle pastures and everybody, and their cousin runs a corn feeder. I stopped running bait entirely and moved my Ameristep ground blind 600 yards deeper into a timber pocket between 2 bedding areas. On the Tacticam I had on a trail that connected the beds, I got more mature buck photos in daylight during the first 2 weeks than I'd gotten in 3 years sitting over corn. The bucks weren't coming to me. I went to where the bucks already were, free, no bait, no product. The irony is that every other hunter on the lease was spending $200 a season on corn and attractants to sit in spots where the biggest deer hadn't walked in daylight since October. I spent nothing and sat where the biggest deer actually lived. 6. Use a doe's hind leg with the tarsal gland attached as a scent drag. When you harvest a doe, save one of the hind legs below the knee with the tarsal gland, that dark, greasy patch on the inside of the leg, intact. Drag it behind you on a rope from your parking spot to your stand. The scent trail you're laying down is 100% authentic local deer scent. No commercial product matches it because no commercial product contains the specific chemical signature of a deer that actually lived in your area. Bucks will follow that trail with their nose on the ground. A poster on the GON forum described his grandfather doing this for decades and said the old man never bought a bottle of scent in his life. If you watch the Old Timer Tricks video, this was on the list there too. And the number of hunters who've messaged me saying they tried it and it worked tells me the old timers were right about most of what the industry replaced. Quick note on this. Freeze the extra legs in a Ziploc bag and you've got drag scent for the entire season. My wife found 3 deer legs in the chest freezer last November, and the conversation that followed is not one I'm going to repeat on camera. 7. Scatter yellow acorns around your stand. This one is legal where other attractants aren't because acorns are native food. In states where you can't bait at all, you can still pick up acorns from oak trees on the property and scatter them around your stand location. White oak acorns, the ones with the rounded caps that deer prefer over red oak, are the ones you want. The yellow and tan ones that have recently dropped are freshest. Deer read scattered acorns as a natural food source with 0 red flags. No pile, no unnatural concentration, no foreign scent. Just food that belongs there, in a spot that happens to be 20 yards from your stand. This was one of the most positively received tips from the comments on our last video, and I'm not surprised. It's free, it's legal everywhere I'm aware of, and it works because you're not tricking the deer. You're just concentrating a food source they're already looking for. I've done this on public land where any attractant would get me a fine, and it works because it is the natural food source. The game warden can't write you up for putting acorns under an oak tree. A 5-gallon bucket of white oak acorns collected in September and stored in a cool garage will last the entire season. Scatter a handful at your stand every time you sit. 8. Human urine in a mock scrape. This one sounds wrong until you understand the biology. When a buck works a scrape, he urinates down his hind legs over his tarsal glands into the scraped dirt. That urine is a territorial marker. Human urine contains urea, ammonia, and creatinine, the same core compounds found in all mammalian urine. An Ohio Sportsman poster laid it out plainly. All urine turns to ammonia within about 15 minutes, and no animal can tell the difference. Ammonia is ammonia. He'd urinated on scrapes multiple times and never spooked a deer. Multiple other forum hunters confirmed the same experience. A Deer Hunter forum poster said he freshens his mock scrape by urinating in it every time he visits and has taken bucks because of it. The trick is timing. Urinate on the walk out, never on the walk in. You don't want fresh human scent at your stand when deer are approaching. On your exit, when you're leaving the area and won't be back for days, a quick stop at the scrape adds the ammonia marker that bucks read as territorial competition from an unknown buck. They come back to investigate and reassert dominance. Cost, 0. One thing I want to be clear about. This doesn't work as a standalone attraction method. You're not going to urinate in a random patch of dirt and expect deer to show up. The mock scrape has to be in a location deer are already using, with a proper licking branch overhead. The urine is just the cherry on top. It adds the territorial aggression signal that makes a buck come back more aggressively and more often. Without the licking branch and the bare dirt and the right location, a puddle of urine is just a puddle. 9. Ammonia as a year-round substitute for commercial doe urine. This connects directly to what I just explained. A gallon of household ammonia costs about $3 to $4 at any grocery store. Dilute it to roughly half strength with water. Apply it to a cotton ball or felt wick the same way you'd apply commercial doe urine, and hang it near your stand or at a scrape. The volatile ammonia mimics the urea decomposition in real deer urine, which is the primary scent compound that bucks respond to. I'll be honest, I resisted this for a long time, because it seemed like the kind of internet myth that sounds good and doesn't work. But after reading the Ohio Sportsman thread and several others where experienced hunters confirmed it, I tried it on a scrape line in Montcalm County, Michigan. That's the flat, sandy farmland and Oak Islands in the west central part of the Lower Peninsula, where the dairy operations and deer habitat sit side by side. I put ammonia wicks on 2 scrapes and left 2 nearby scrapes untreated. On the Tacticam cameras, the ammonia scrapes got what looked like roughly the same visitation rate as the untreated ones over 2 weeks. Not more, not less. What that told me is that the ammonia wasn't spooking deer, which is the main concern people have, and it was doing the same job as the $18 bottle of doe urine for about 10 cents per application. A gallon lasts 2 full seasons. Nobody sells this because nobody makes money on it. Think about the math for a second. A 4-ounce bottle of doe urine at the pro shop runs about $12 to $18. A 4-ounce application of diluted ammonia costs about 3 cents. Over a 10-year hunting career, the difference is somewhere around $500 to $700. The deer's nose doesn't know the difference. Your wallet does. 10. Hemp rope as a portable licking branch anywhere you need one. Not every tree has a branch at the right height in the right spot. The old-timers solved this by tying a length of thick hemp rope, roughly 3/4 inch diameter, between 2 trees at about 5 to 5.5 feet off the ground, roughly chin height on an adult man. Mossy Oak's gamekeeper site documented this technique and confirmed that in some areas the rope attracts more attention than natural branches because of the texture. Bucks chew it, rub their forehead glands on it, and treat it exactly like a natural licking branch. You can put the mock scrape wherever the terrain gives you the best shot opportunity instead of being limited to wherever a tree happens to have a branch at the right height. Paracord or thin wire stiffens the setup, so it doesn't blow around in wind, which some hunters reported made deer more cautious. A stiff rope or vine that moves only when a deer works, it looks more natural than one flapping in a breeze. I keep a 20-foot length of 3/4 inch hemp rope in my pack during September and October. Takes 2 minutes to tie up, and I've set up functional mock scrapes in spots where there wasn't a natural branch within 50 yards of where I needed one. The rope absorbs glandular scent from the first deer that works it and holds that scent better than most smooth bark branches because of the fibrous texture. 11. Cut every competing licking branch in the area except the one near your stand. If there are 10 active scrapes within 300 yards of your position, the buck traffic is spread across all of them. You might get one visit per night to the scrape you're watching. Cut the licking branches on every other scrape in the area and leave only yours intact. The bucks that were checking 10 scrapes now have one option. All that scrape traffic funnels to the single remaining branch, which happens to be 20 yards from your stand. An archery talk hunter who applied this went from seeing no bucks at his stand to having daily activity the same week. It sounds aggressive, and it is, but you're not removing scrapes permanently. You're creating a temporary funnel during the weeks you're actively hunting that spot. After the season, the deer will establish new scrapes wherever they want. I'll be honest, I felt bad about it the first time I did it. It felt like cheating. But then, I watched 3 bucks work the remaining scrape in one evening on the Tacticam, and I stopped feeling bad about it pretty quickly. 12. Never pump gas on the way to your hunting spot. This is the one I said would annoy you, and here's why. You can wash your clothes in scent-free detergent, spray down with scent eliminator, wear rubber boots, store your gear in a sealed tote with cedar boughs, do everything right for scent control, and then stop for gas on the drive to the property and undo all of it with one splash. Gasoline vapor is one of the strongest and most persistent volatile organic compounds a deer's nose can detect. A single drop on your boot or glove travels further in the wind column than human body odor, and nothing covers it. Nothing. The old-timers who hunted the same farms for 40 years filled the tank the night before and never stopped on the way. Nobody mentions this on hunting shows because it doesn't sell a product. But a buddy who guides in Harlan County, Kentucky, that's the deep mountain hollow country in the far southeastern corner of the state, where the coal roads wind through narrow drainages and the deer live in the steep timber above, told me he can smell gasoline on a client's hands from 6 feet away. And he's watched bucks blow at 80 yards when a hunter who'd pumped gas that morning walked past a scrape line. He makes every client fill up the night before and won't let them touch the truck's fuel cap on hunt mornings. Said it's the single easiest fix that nobody does. I started filling up the night before, 2 seasons ago, and keeping a pair of rubber gloves in the center console for any time I have to touch a gas pump. My wife thinks I've finally lost it. She might be right. But I haven't been blown at by a deer on my entry trail since I made that change, and I'm not willing to go back to testing whether it was coincidence. Everything on this list, plus about 60 more field-tested techniques, are in the Buck Hunter's Bible. It's the field reference I keep going back to because every trick has the science behind it, not just instructions. Scent control, stand placement by terrain, rut phase tactics, and a full chapter of old-timer methods that were never written down until I started asking the right people. There's a pre-hunt reference card at the back that fits in your pack. I spent 2 years testing and documenting everything in it, and it's in the description below. Point your phone at the QR code on screen if you're watching on a TV. 12 tricks, 0 of them require a battery, a subscription, or a trip to the pro shop. The branch is more important than the bottle. The location matters more than the scent. And the generation that figured this out didn't have a choice because the products didn't exist yet. The products exist now, and most of them work. I'm not saying they don't. But the deer haven't changed, and the tricks that worked when your grandfather was filling tags in a wool coat and leather boots still work today. Next time we're getting into thermals, because where you place a scent and what the air does with it at 6 a.m. versus 10 a.m. versus 3 p.m. produces 3 completely different results from the same stand. Same product, 3 outcomes, and the difference is one variable nobody talks about. See you then.